When my smug boss, Dave, fired me after 15 years of keeping Mercy Hospital's systems alive, he thought he'd won. But I was crafting a revenge so sharp it would leave him speechless, with a hidden failsafe ready to expose his every mistake. I'd start my mornings with black coffee and Springsteen, but my real passion was keeping that hospital's heart beating. I was the guy they called the wizard, the one who made sure the chaos never won. But in one gut punch moment, Dave ripped it all away. Let me paint the picture. For a decade and a half, I was the guy who kept Mercy Hospital alive behind the scenes. My systems ran at 99.9% uptime, supporting over 12,000 surgeries and 60,000 patient visits without a single crash. Back in 2019, a power surge hit during a kid's heart surgery. The lights flickered, but my backup protocols kept those monitors steady. The surgeon grabbed my hand after, eyes wide, and said, "You saved that boy as much as I did." Haha, that's what I live for. Every late night in the server room, every missed dinner with my wife, every birthday I spent untangling cables. It was all for moments like that. I wasn't just an IT guy. I was the guy who made sure the hospital never skipped a beat. Then Dave showed up. New suit, corner office, and a head full of buzzwords like game changer and next-gen innovation. He was the kind of guy who'd sell you a shiny new car without checking if it had an engine. Dave had this big plan for a new system, some off-the-shelf software he swore would put Mercy Hospital on the map. Sounded great, except it was untested, buggy, and a nightmare waiting to happen. I'd seen hospitals go down for less. A bad upgrade could freeze the ER, lose patient records, or worse, mess up a surgery. So I did what I always did. I pushed back. I told him we needed to test it, train the staff, and make sure it wouldn't crash when lives were on the line. Dave didn't like that. To him, I was a roadblock, a guy stuck in the past, resisting change. Never mind that my so-called resistance had saved Mercy Hospital from a $6 million ransomware attack in 2018. Never mind that my protocols kept us breach-free for 15 years. One rainy Tuesday, he called me into his office. I can still see that smirk on his face, like he'd already won. "You're too old for this game," Dave sneered, sliding a termination letter across his desk. My stomach dropped. 15 years of loyalty, gone in a heartbeat. My team was gutted. A nurse named Jane, who'd seen me pull all-nighters to keep the ICU online, grabbed my arm as I left. Her voice cracked. "You were our safety net. What do we do now?" I didn't have an answer. Dave thought he'd buried me, thought he'd written the end of my story, but he missed one critical detail. I built a failsafe. I called it the Wizard's failsafe. It was hidden. It logged everything. Dave never saw it. He was too busy chasing buzzwords. That failsafe was about to change everything. I walked out of Mercy Hospital that day with my head held high, but inside, I was burning. I wasn't going to let Dave's ego define me. I had a plan, a fire in my gut, and a chance to show the world what I was really made of. Want to know how I turned this betrayal into the comeback of a lifetime? Stick around, because this story's just getting started. I got fired from Mercy Hospital after 15 years of keeping their systems alive, betrayed by a boss who thought he could bury me. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I dusted myself off, stoked the fire in my gut, and set out to prove Dave made the biggest mistake of his career. Walking out of that hospital, my head high but my heart heavy, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the start of a comeback that would shake the ground under his feet. That rainy Tuesday when Dave handed me that termination letter still burned in my mind. I'd given everything to Mercy Hospital, late nights in the server room, missing my kids' soccer games, even working through a fever to keep the ICU online. All for nothing, or so Dave thought. But I wasn't the type to sit around feeling sorry for myself. I went home, poured a strong coffee, and got to work. I opened my laptop and started updating my resume. 15 years of 99.9% uptime, a $6 million ransomware attack stopped dead in its tracks. Over 200 nurses and doctors trained to use systems they once feared. Those weren't just numbers. They were proof I was damn good at my job. I posted it on LinkedIn, and by the next morning, my inbox was buzzing. Recruiters from all over Kansas City wanted to talk. One message stood out. It was from Crescent Health, a rival hospital across town. They were struggling, their IT department a mess, but their CTO, Sarah, had a vision. She wanted someone who could build something real, not just chase trends. I liked that. I walked into the interview ready to lay it all bare. Sarah sat across from me, sharp and no nonsense, the kind of leader who listened more than she talked. I told her about my time at Mercy Hospital, how I kept the hospital running through crises, how I saved a kid's life by keeping the monitors on during that 2019 blackout. I didn't hide the truth about Dave either. He fired me for pushing back on a risky system, I said. I wasn't resisting change. I was protecting patients. But I'm not stuck in the past. I've been digging into AI diagnostics and cloud security, figuring out how to make systems smarter without letting them fail. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes locked on mine. She didn't want buzzwords. She wanted results. By the end of the meeting, she offered me the job of lead IT strategist, complete with a team of 10 and a $2 million budget to rebuild Crescent systems from the ground up. I shook her hand, feeling the spark of a new beginning. Crescent's IT department was a disaster when I started. Servers so old they groaned like my grandpa's truck. Encryption weaker than a screen door in a hurricane. Staff who froze when a computer beeped at them. I didn't see a mess. I saw a chance to build something better than Mercy Hospital ever dreamed of. Over the next 5 months, my team and I worked like we were on a mission. We rolled out a new hybrid system, blending rock-solid reliability with the kind of tech that made doctors' jaws drop. We installed predictive maintenance AI that could spot a server issue 2 days before it happened, cutting downtime risk by 35%. We overhauled patient record systems, shaving 20 minutes off ER wait times. I spent weekends training 180 staff, turning nervous nurses into tech wizards who could navigate our systems blindfolded. By month 6, Crescent's efficiency was up 28%. Patient satisfaction hit an all-time high. The CEO called me to his office, a big grin on his face. "You're not just fixing systems," he said. "You're changing lives." That felt good, but I was just getting started. While I was building a new legacy at Crescent, Mercy Hospital was falling apart. My old colleague Jane, the nurse who'd grabbed my arm when I left, sent me texts late at night. Dave had pushed his shiny new system through. No testing, no training, just his ego calling the shots. Dave's so-called game-changer system was more like a $500,000 paperweight. The result was a train wreck. 1 week, the software crashed during a busy shift, delaying 300 patient procedures. Doctors were furious, patients were complaining, and the local news ran a story about Mercy Hospital's tech troubles. Dave had the nerve to blame me, saying I'd left behind a broken system. What he didn't know was that my wizard's failsafe was still running in the background. It was hidden. It logged every mistake. Dave never saw it coming. That little tool I'd built was logging every untested patch, every skipped protocol. It was waiting for the right moment to come to light. Jane's texts weren't just gossip. They were a lifeline. She told me the team was struggling, so I sent her a 30-page troubleshooting guide I'd written in my spare time. "You're still saving us," she wrote back. That meant more to me than any paycheck, but I wasn't content to stop there. I'd been working on something bigger, a white paper called Balancing Innovation and Stability in Healthcare IT. It was my manifesto, everything I'd learned in 15 years, from keeping systems alive to embracing new tech the right way. I sent it to the National Healthcare IT Conference, not expecting much. A week later, I got an email. They wanted me to present in Chicago, in front of 400 industry leaders. I felt a rush, like I was stepping into a boxing ring. What I didn't know was that Dave would be there too, and the stage was set for a moment that would turn everything upside down. I was building something unstoppable at Crescent, but the real fight was coming. Want to know how I took Dave's betrayal and turned it into his worst nightmare? Keep listening, because the gloves are about to come off. Dave thought he'd buried me when he fired me from Mercy Hospital, but I was rebuilding something bigger at Crescent Health. My systems were humming, my team was unstoppable, and I was about to step into a spotlight that would make him choke on his own words. 6 months after he kicked me out, I walked into a Chicago conference hall, ready to show the world what I was made of. Little did I know, Dave was sitting in that crowd, sent by his own bosses to clean up his mess. This was the moment everything changed. I'd spent 5 months at Crescent turning chaos into a masterpiece. Our new system cut wait times by 20 minutes and saved $1.5 million in maintenance costs. My team was firing on all cylinders, and the CEO was calling me the guy who put Crescent on the map. But I wasn't just there to fix servers. I had a bigger play in mind. Back at my apartment, I'd poured my heart into a white paper, a battle plan for healthcare IT that balanced cutting-edge tech with the kind of reliability that saved lives. I called it Balancing Innovation and Stability. It was everything I'd learned in 15 years at Mercy Hospital, everything Dave had ignored. I sent it to the National Healthcare IT Conference, half expecting a polite rejection. Instead, they invited me to speak in front of 400 industry leaders, from small-town sysadmins to big-shot CEOs. I felt like I'd just been handed a microphone and a stage to tell my story. I wasn't going to waste it. The morning of the conference, I stood in my hotel room, staring at my reflection in a crisp navy suit. My hands were steady, but my heart was pounding. This wasn't just a presentation. It was my chance to prove Dave wrong, to show the world that I wasn't the dinosaur he thought I was. I walked into the conference hall, a cavernous room buzzing with energy. Rows of chairs stretched out, filled with people scribbling notes and sipping coffee. I scanned the crowd, adjusting my slides on the big screen behind me. Then I saw him, Dave, slumped in the second row, looking like he hadn't slept in a month. His tie was crooked, his face pale. I found out later the Mercy Hospital board had forced him to come, desperate to fix the disaster he'd caused. Their systems had crashed again, costing $1.2 million and delaying 400 patient procedures. The local news was eating them alive with headlines like Mercy Hospital Tech Meltdown. Dave was here to save his own skin, but he was about to get a front row seat to my comeback. I took a deep breath and stepped up to the podium. My presentation was called Reliability Meets Innovation. I laid it all out, how Crescent's AI-driven system caught issues 2 days early, saving lives and money, how we trained 180 staff to use tech like pros, how our efficiency jumped 28% while Mercy Hospital was drowning in downtime. I didn't name Dave, but I didn't need to. I showed a chart comparing Crescent's 99.4% uptime to the industry's 80% average. The crowd leaned forward, nodding. Jane had whispered earlier, "The board's digging into your old logs. They're not happy." Then I got to the heart of it. Hospitals can't afford to chase shiny new systems without testing them, I said, my voice steady but sharp. Ignore the people who know your systems best, and you're begging for trouble. The room burst into applause. I caught Dave's eye for a split second. He looked like he wanted to disappear. The real twist came during the Q&A. A hospital director stood up, his voice tense. "What's the worst mistake you've seen in healthcare IT?" he asked. I didn't hesitate. "The worst mistake is thinking you can skip the basics for the sake of looking cutting edge. I've seen a hospital lose millions because someone ignored warnings from the team that kept it running." The crowd roared, clapping so loud it echoed. Dave grabbed his bag and bolted for the exit, his face red as a stoplight. I didn't smirk. I didn't need to. My old colleague Jane texted me later that night. "The board found your fail-safe logs," she said. "They show every mistake Dave made. He's in deep trouble." That's when it hit me. My Wizard's fail-safe, the tool I'd built to protect Mercy Hospital, was now exposing Dave's incompetence. A routine audit had uncovered it. Every untested patch and ignored protocol laid bare in black and white. I hadn't planned it this way, but karma was doing its work. That conference was my turning point. I walked off that stage feeling 10 feet tall, Industry leaders were shaking my hand, asking for my card. Crescent's CEO called me that night, her voice beaming. "You just put us in the history books," she said. "I was no longer just the guy who fixed servers. I was the guy who showed the world how it's done. But the best was yet to come. Want to know how I took this moment and turned it into a victory that left Dave in the dust? Hang on tight, because the biggest showdown is right around the corner." I just walked off the stage in Chicago, leaving Dave in the dust with my conference speech still ringing in 400 ears. He thought he'd crushed me when he fired me from Mercy Hospital. But I was soaring at Crescent Health, building systems that saved lives. 1 month later, I stood in a New York ballroom, ready to accept an award that would cement my comeback and make Dave's world crumble. This was it, the moment where my revenge hit like a freight train, and I didn't have to lift a finger to make it happen. The National Healthcare Innovation Awards Gala was like something out of a movie. Crystal chandeliers sparkled over 600 industry leaders in tuxedos and gowns, sipping champagne in a Manhattan ballroom. Crescent Health had just won the top award for our hybrid IT system, the one I'd built from the ground up. My team's work had slashed costs by 18%, cut wait times by 20 minutes, and kept downtime to 5 hours a year. I was invited to accept the award on a stage streamed live to thousands. I'd spent weeks preparing my speech, not to gloat, but to show the world what happens when you value the right people. As I adjusted my tie backstage, my phone buzzed. It was Jane, my old colleague from Mercy Hospital. Her text was short but heavy. "The board knows everything. Your fail-safe logs are tearing Dave apart." I smiled. My wizard's fail-safe, that little tool I'd buried in Mercy Hospital's system, had done its job. A routine audit had uncovered every mistake Dave made, every corner he cut, every warning he ignored. His $1.2 million disaster was now a $2.8 million nightmare, and the truth was out. I stepped onto the stage. The spotlight burned. The award gleamed. The crowd hushed as I gripped the podium. "Innovation isn't about chasing the next big thing," I said, my voice steady but carrying the weight of 15 years. "It's about building systems that don't fail when lives are on the line." At Crescent, we blended cutting-edge tech with rock-solid reliability. We cut costs by $1.5 million. We saved 20 minutes per patient in the ER. We kept our systems up 95% of the time. I paused, letting the numbers sink in. Then I showed a chart on the massive screen behind me, comparing Crescent's stats to the industry average in Mercy Hospital, which was limping along at 62% efficiency and 150 hours of downtime. The room erupted, clapping so loud it shook the walls. I didn't mention Mercy Hospital by name, but everyone knew. The industry was small, and gossip traveled fast. Dave's failures were the talk of the night. I stepped off the stage. The award gleamed. A hand reached out. "Dave." His eyes darted. I gripped it. The room watched. He looked like a man who'd lost a fight, his suit wrinkled, his eyes darting. "Nice speech," he muttered, offering a weak handshake. I nodded, my grip firm but my face blank. "Thanks for coming," I said and walked away. That moment was sweeter than any award. I'd beaten him, not with anger, but with excellence. The next morning, Jane called with the biggest twist yet. Mercy Hospital's board had tracked her down, begging for my contact info. They offered me a $250,000 consulting contract to fix their broken systems. Their exact words: "We made a terrible mistake letting you go." They even hinted they'd fire Dave if I came back. I leaned back in my hotel chair, staring at the New York skyline. "I'm happy at Crescent," I told Jane. "They value what I do." She laughed, a sound of pure relief. "You're killing it," she said. I could hear the pride in her voice. The gala wasn't just a win for me. It was a signal to the industry. Crescent's CEO pulled me aside after my speech, her eyes shining. "We're getting calls from hospitals in Boston and Seattle," she said. "They want you to consult for them." I shook my head, still processing it. A CEO from a Chicago hospital slipped me his card, whispering, Name your price to join us. I thanked him but stayed loyal to Crescent. My revenge wasn't about jumping ship for a bigger paycheck. It was about building something so undeniable that Mercy Hospital couldn't ignore their mistake. Their losses were climbing, their reputation was in tatters, and the local news was relentless. A headline I saw later that week said it all. Mercy Hospital tech crisis costs millions. Jane told me the staff still talked about the wizard, the guy who could have saved them. Dave was hanging by a thread, his career sinking under the weight of his own arrogance. I stood in that ballroom, award in hand, knowing I'd done more than win. I'd rewritten my story. Dave's smirk from that rainy Tuesday was a distant memory, replaced by the sound of applause and the weight of a truth he couldn't escape. I'd turned his betrayal into my triumph, and the industry was watching. But this wasn't the end. Want to know how this victory shaped the rest of my journey and left a legacy that Dave could never touch? Stay with me, because the final chapter is one you won't forget. I stood in that New York ballroom, holding an award that proved Dave's betrayal couldn't break me. My work at Crescent Health had turned heads, saved lives, and left Mercy Hospital scrambling to recover from their $2.8 million disaster. I'd walked away from Dave's weak handshake, from a $250,000 offer to fix his mess, knowing I'd already won. But this story isn't just about proving him wrong. It's about what I built from the ashes, the lives I touched, and the legacy I'm leaving behind. This is where the real victory lives, and it's bigger than any revenge. Getting fired from Mercy Hospital after 15 years hurt like hell. I'd poured my soul into that hospital, missed my kids' birthday parties, spent nights in server rooms to keep the ER running. Dave thought he could erase all that with a smirk and a termination letter. He was wrong. That rainy Tuesday when he called me a dinosaur lit a fire in me. I didn't waste time plotting some petty comeback. I got to work. I rebuilt my career at Crescent, turned their broken systems into a model for the industry, and walked away with an award that said I was right all along. But the real win wasn't the trophy or the applause. It was knowing I'd done it my way, with grit, brains, and a heart that never quit. Mercy Hospital is still picking up the pieces. Jane, my old colleague, keeps me posted. Dave's been demoted to a desk job, pushing papers while the board tries to rebuild trust. He's taking night classes, trying to catch up with an industry that's left him behind. Their systems are years behind Crescent's, and the staff still talk about the wizard, the guy they let slip through their fingers. I don't gloat. I don't need to. Their regret is louder than any words I could say. Jane told me they're using my old training manuals, the ones I wrote in my last months at Mercy Hospital. That stings a little, but it also feels good. My work is still saving them, even if they don't deserve it. At Crescent, I'm not just running systems, I'm building a future. Our AI-driven setup has caught the eye of hospitals from Boston to San Diego. They're calling me for advice, asking how we cut costs by $1.5 million and kept downtime to 5 hours a year. I started workshops in Kansas City, teaching IT pros to fight for their systems and never back down. My white paper is now part of IT training programs at universities across the country. I get emails from students, young guys and gals starting out, saying my story pushed them to keep going when their bosses didn't believe in them. That hits me hard. I'm not just fixing computers anymore. I mentor new IT pros. I teach them balance. Their systems save lives. A few months after the gala, I ran into Jane at a small IT workshop in Kansas City. She was there to learn about new systems, still fighting the good fight at Mercy Hospital. We grabbed coffee after, sitting in a diner with cracked vinyl booths and the smell of fried eggs in the air. She looked tired but hopeful. "You change things," she said, her voice soft but sure. "The nurses, the doctors, they all talk about you. They're pushing for better systems because of what you did." I didn't know what to say. I'd spent so long focused on proving Dave wrong. I hadn't realized how much I'd inspired the people I left behind. Jane reached across the table, her hand on mine. "You're the reason I didn't quit," she said. That moment meant more to me than any stage, any award. It was proof my work had a ripple effect, touching lives I'd never even see. Looking back, I realized my revenge wasn't about destroying Dave. It was about building something he could never touch. I turned his betrayal into a chance to start over, to show the world what I could do when I wasn't held back. I went home that night, hugged my kid tight, and knew I'd made it through the storm. If you're facing your own Dave, fight smart, share your comeback story with a friend, show them what's possible, let your work do the talking, let your success be the knife that cuts deepest. I'm living proof it works. As for me, I'm not done yet. Every day, I'm writing a new chapter, one that's bigger than revenge, bigger than any one hospital. Keep thinking about it, because the real lesson is one you'll carry with you forever.